Hello, welcome to Smash Hit Sports. I'm Cody, that's Nick, and the college football season is over, which means this podcast now, from here going forward, is a college basketball podcast, which is what Nick has always wanted. It's what Nick has always wanted, to just do a pure college hoops podcast. That being said, if anything crazy happens college football wise, we'll talk about it, like Nick Saban retires or something like that. But before we get started with the college hoops, make sure to like this video. It's a huge help to the podcast if you're watching on YouTube. And wherever you are watching or listening, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. We are closing in on 600 subscribers onto the YouTube, which is huge. But Nick, you were off last week. You were busy, busy man. You got shit to do. But I want to hear your thoughts on the national title as just a last, end to the football season.
Yeah, it was, obviously they do the national championship on Mondays, which is normally when we record. So I did a bad job of planning around that because
And then Tuesday, I had to make the 10-hour drive back from Atlanta.
Exactly.
So really, it's on both of us.
I was just like, shit, I've scheduled everything for the Wednesday that we were recording. But yeah, so national championship, Notre Dame put up a better fight, honestly, than I was even really expecting. For points there, I was like, this game is over, but made it fun, made it a national championship that if you threw it on, the highlights on in 10 years, I'd be like, ooh, yeah, I'm down to rewatch this, relive this. Whereas it was shaping up to not be one of those. So I appreciate that. But it really, to me, it feels like I don't know. I kind of just knew that it was just Ohio State. And there was never a doubt really in my head. So I wasn't surprised by the result. And everything kind of went weirdly how I thought it would, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State was in control of the game. They won. They were the better team, and they played like it. Congrats to Ohio State, which it is what it is. It was a cool experience. Glad I got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, sick that you were there and sick that you didn't have to sit through a blowout as well.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I got nervous. I was like, there's no shot that I was going to leave early. I paid thousands of dollars for those tickets. Nice. But I was like, damn, this is going to suck.
Yeah, that's the guilt that night of what have I done? I just burned money on a sad moment, paying to get sad. So at least it was fun,
Yeah.
I'm happy for you in that sense.
For sure. And then a couple shout outs before we keep it moving. Want to shout out Aiden, who won our bowl pick'em, Aiden Ramsey. So shout out Aiden, won the bull pick'em, ball knower, 30-17, or no, he did not go 30-17. I forget what he won, but it was really he was very impressive.
Well. Yeah, I don't remember either, but did you toss him over his reward?
Yes, he did get the Home Field Apparel gift card. Speaking of Home Field Apparel, use code Nick15, get 15% off your first purchase at Home Field Apparel.
What a plug.
Yeah, seamless.
Highly recommend it.
But that being said, we'll do some more giveaways for obviously, biggest giveaway of the year is going to be for the March Madness Bracket Challenge. Excited for that. But Nick, you finished 8th in the bowl pick'em at 30-17. I finished 13th at 29-18, literally just one game off. So if you take out the fact that we, added bonus points for picking the national champion correct, you picked one more game correct than I did all season. And that is a pretty incredible a pretty incredible feat that it was that tight.
It was a buzzer beater. I won on a buzzer beater. Just a back and forth game, high scoring game in 140 to 139 or something like that.
Yeah, we picked a lot of games correctly.
It feels good. Last year, it was kind of you won football, I won basketball. I was like, oh, as expected. Some people in the comments of some of our posts are saying, oh, it's going to reverse this year. So we'll have to see. But college basketball, I haven't been doing that well gambling on it. So maybe this is your time to get your revenge.
Yeah, I mean, the irony of switching it. But speaking of back and forth games coming down to the fucking wire, there were some absolute incredible college hoops games this weekend. And I feel like we would be doing a disservice if we didn't start Kansas-Houston, because that game, it was equally holy shit, Houston, incredibly clutch. Also, what the fuck, Kansas? How did you
Right.
lose that game?
Right.
It was a twofer, and it was incredible.
It was like the biggest choke job you could ever. I mean, there's like the screenshot that I saw on Twitter where DeJuan Harris is at the line and Kansas is up 6. There's like 18.2 seconds left. So it's like, okay, this is to make it a 3-possession game. And then Houston tied it up somehow. Like
Yeah,
a little,
it was.
they had
I
2
think there were
threes there.
18 seconds left. He was at the line. They were up 6 with 2 free throws, not a 1-on-1, with 2 free throws.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
yeah.
I was standing up, like, holy shit. And what it reminds me of is the Oklahoma-Kansas game 2016 that was like 1 versus 2 and went into triple overtime. And that was less choke. Both teams were playing phenomenally. But like now I believe Houston and Kansas are probably the premier brands of the Big 12 instead of Oklahoma, obviously, because Oklahoma's gone. And both ranked inside the top 10. And we got an instant classic. And I was just like, this is incredible. AJ Storr put the fries in the bag, right? I mean,
Yeah.
literally he was doing cardio. And he was an all Big 10 basketball player last year.
Yeah.
And he is garbage, dude. Oh my God.
I know, and it's crazy that he transfers out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin, one of the best teams in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's weird, but like Wisconsin is playing great team basketball. And AJ Storage, he left out for what?
Yeah,
like he left for what?
I remember when he transferred there, I was like, oh my God, Kansas, they're assembling the Avengers, but they got it's a prank. Like, he was never good. I
think Kansas has won the last 3 off seasons. I think they're 3-0 in the last 3 off seasons. I think they're undefeated.
Right? Yeah. So I don't know. I still absolutely believe in this Kansas team because like they should have won that game and they're well coached and they have so much talent. Like they just need to maybe bench AJ Storr forever, never let him see the field again, and maybe, just figure out some like what's your best lineup, I don't know. But they are a good team. Like let's not panic on Kansas. That's my take. Houston, obviously good. Weird resume. That was like their first real win of the year.
Yeah.
Which is strange because they're, I think, number 1 in BPI and number 2 or 3 in KenPom and have been for a while. But in the bracketology world where I live, Houston, you can't just assume they're going to win because of how good they are. They had not done anything prior to this road win, which is huge. So 3 seed right now for Houston.
Yeah, and then coming into this, Houston was 1-3 in quad 1 wins. In quad 1 games.
Their one quad 1 win was like barely. It was like West Virginia. Like it was barely quad 1 or something.
Yeah, but
they needed that
for sure. Next game, Auburn, Tennessee. This is I don't think it's a bold statement to say that Auburn's the best team in the country, but I think Auburn is the most electric team in the country. I think they are the most exciting team in the country. Their brand of basketball it's so fast. It's so like their offense hums. They could lose focus a little bit defensively, but when they're humming, dude, they are so fucking good.
Well, so it's fascinating because this game crushed their KenPom offensive metric. Like a 1 game, like they dropped like more than I've seen a team drop in a long time but the defense that was being played in this game was, I mean, it was like watching Ravens Steelers 2008, James Harrison, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and Joey Porter. Like this is beautiful basketball, but are they going to get to 50 points? Not sure. It was just chaos and I loved it. That game came on right after Kansas Houston at night, Saturday night, just enjoying myself. I was out of the bar, so I didn't even have audio, which is actually annoying, but I was still enjoying the hell out of it. I will say that I agree Auburn is probably the best team in the country, but, and I'll also say that I'm pretty sure on KenPom, even after this bad offensive performance, they have the best offensive efficiency metric that KenPom has ever recorded. It's 129.7 now. They were in 131 range. And if you go to KenPom.com, which if you've never heard of it, you should absolutely utilize that if you like college hoops. You can go back 2024, 3, 2, 1, all the way back to 2004. look for the best offensive team. It's like 126 normally. Auburn is blowing away what it means to be efficient offensively. And really what it does is it impresses me that Tennessee was able to suppress that on the road as well as they did. Shocking. Like I walk away from that game more impressed with Tennessee than I was with Auburn. But Auburn won.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're a Tennessee fan, you cannot be upset with how the end of that, like how that game went. It was a rock fight the entire time. You played your brand of basketball. You went to Auburn, you went to the jungle, and you made Auburn play your style of basketball. You lost by 2, but God damn it, that's a hell of a performance on the road in the SEC. Nick, how many quad 1 wins do you think Auburn has so far this season?
I know the answer to that.
Because it's 11. That 11. Is insane.
11. And what's their record? They've played like 18, 19 games.
Yeah, they're 18-1. They have 11 quad 1 wins.
They're 11-1 in quad 1. So 12 of their 19 games have been quad 1. Whereas like a St. Mary's has yet to play one. Auburn's played 12, and they've won 11 of them. And their only loss is to Duke, who is the second best team in the country. So there is no sugarcoating how good Auburn is. Once we get closer to March, maybe some theories will come out on, competition fatigue in that sense. I think there's some reality there. But as of right now, watch Auburn, must watch TV, and enjoy the show because it's awesome.
I want to use this to transition to the SEC because SEC basketball this year is what SEC football thinks it is every year. And that is the best conference top to bottom. And there is, outside of like potentially LSU or South Carolina, I don't think there's a weak team in this conference. There isn't one. It's crazy. This is the best conference top to bottom. I don't think it's close. Legitimately insane. Texas A&M I think they played like 8 straight ranked games.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw the graphic circulating about Alabama's last 10 games of their season this year. You can go ahead and look up Alabama's schedule. I believe this stretch starts with a road game at Auburn, so just start there and you can rattle them off. But it's the hardest 10-game stretch I've ever seen in my life.
It is at Alabama, at Missouri, at home
Auburn,
against
at Auburn. You mean yes, at Auburn?
Yeah, or no, Auburn's at home.
This is Alabama's schedule, right?
Yes, Alabama's schedule.
So it's at Auburn to start.
No, they end at Auburn.
They end at Auburn, so it's at Alabama. Okay, there you go.
So it's at Alabama, Auburn at Alabama, at Missouri, Kentucky at home, Mississippi State at home, at Tennessee, Florida at home, at Auburn. That is how they end their season.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's insane. It's truly insane. I don't know how, even if you lose 2 to 3 of those games, you still feel fine headed into the tournament.
That's the crazy thing about the SEC right now, because I made a video about this back in December where I was like, the best conference I've ever seen probably is the 2011 Big East, where it was like 8 or 9 teams ranked kind of consistently throughout the year. And that was the Cardiac Kemba year where they won, but they were playing on day one because of how stacked the Big East was. The SEC right now, most teams can look at a 10-game stretch of their conference schedule and be like, all of those games are quad 1. And you go to the ACC and Louisville's next 10 games, I don't think there's any quad 1 games in there. I think they have 0 left. And the SEC, some teams probably have 14 left, which is insane. But the crazy thing about that is that I'm not used to it. I don't think a lot of people working in the bracketology world are really used to that, because Alabama could lose at Auburn and lose to Florida and Kentucky and Missouri. But then it means that they've also beaten Auburn in that stretch. They also beat Mississippi State, and they beat whoever else was in there. You walk away, you're like, they just picked up 3 of the best wins you could have. And they lost 4 games, but to some of the best teams in the country on the road. What do you do? Do you say, okay, well, Auburn just lost 4 games, they can't be a 1 seed anymore? Or is it that has actually boosted their resume that they just went 3-4?
Yeah, the seeding is going to be so interesting this year because you're going to look at, there are going to be teams with 20-something wins in the ACC and teams with 20-something wins in the SEC. And we're going to have to make decisions. And I don't know how you can even fathom putting an ACC team in over an SEC team at this point. Like,
Well,
it's
very
so skewed. You're going to see,
really
like,
hard.
when your bracket comes out, you're going to see like a double-digit loss team, like much higher ranked than they normally are in the seeding, and everybody's going to pick against them, and you're going to be like,
right,
they're wrong. They're the 10 seed or whatever, but they play their 7 losses are to the 7 best teams in the country. It's crazy.
Right. Like, this is how I view it. Like, look at Oklahoma, for instance. You know, they, I believe, ended the non-con undefeated. I think they had wins over like Michigan, and I don't remember, maybe Louisville. I don't know. They're, like, a couple of, like, they had like a bunch of really good wins and they were undefeated. So you're looking at Oklahoma like, this is a lock for, but the efficiency metric world is like, Oklahoma's not necessarily that good. They're 45th in Ken Palm or something like that, 40th in net. But resume wise, they're a lock for the tournament. So they could go 7-13 SEC play, or like they might only play 18 games. So like, let's say 6-12, which is like, oh, so they stink. But no, because they're 20-12, because they were undefeated with great wins. And those 6 wins that they pick up, you know, let's say it's outside of South Carolina and LSU, they're all going to be quad 2, quad 1, all of them, right? So say they pick up 3 quad 1 wins and go 6-12 in the SEC, you're going to look at them and be like, well, they absolutely don't deserve to be in. But then it's like, oh, well, they have 7 quad 1 wins. They're 20-12, like, and they're clearly a good team. So they might make it, and people might be like, that's insane. They lost 12, or they lost like 10 of their last 12, and they're going to make it. It's like, yeah, that's how good the SEC is.
Yeah. Like, Missouri's a super interesting one to me because they have wins against Kansas and against, they played Illinois tight. They lost Illinois, but they beat Kansas. And then the rest of their non-conference is like very, very meh. They have a loss to Memphis and a loss to Illinois, and then I believe a loss to Texas, who's not bad, but not good. Missouri, they're in that same boat where like they could go sub 500 in their conference, and I still think they are a lock for the tournament.
Are they 17-3 right now?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a 17-3 team could probably realistically lose a majority of their remaining games and be fine.
16-4. Sorry, they're 16-4. But yeah,
the loss. Well, then that changes it a little bit, but like still, I would have them as a 7 seed right now, and like you can't move them down if they lose at Auburn or at Kentucky. Like you can't. That's not a punishable loss because that's just brutal. And so there's only so many games you can even judge them on. Like win the games that you should, and you can lose the ones that you should lose. There might be 4 games left that Missouri like just needs to go 2-2 in to make it. Maybe 1-3. Just win one more. I don't know. It's wild. It's so wild.
Yep. But let's get off the SEC for a minute. The Big Ten. I had a pretty strong feeling about the Big Ten coming into the year. I thought Purdue was the best team, top to bottom. I like Michigan State, Illinois. I didn't think much of Wisconsin, but they look really good. And I thought UCLA was going to be solid. Mick Cronin, holy shit. He has just shit the bed so many times this year and has gone on like just some elite internet tirades.
Yeah, but they're still fine though. UCLA is good. They're an 8 seed probably right now.
Who's going to win this conference? Because I have no idea.
That's the question. And it's one of my favorite questions. And I've tried to talk about that on some of my videos, but this is the best way to talk about it. It to me feels like every team is the same. Like you can turn on Minnesota versus Michigan and be like, if you didn't see the records or anything, you're like, I don't know who's better. You can turn on Ohio State, Oregon. You have no idea. You can turn on, Wisconsin, Northwestern. You have no idea. It goes so deep. Rutgers played Michigan State pretty well on Sunday. Rutgers is 3rd worst in the conference, actually tied for the worst overall record, and then Michigan State has the best record in the conference. And it was a close game. Every game's close. You might have a blowout here and there. Obviously, I'm like, Purdue crushed Nebraska, blah, blah, blah. But it's just one of these conferences that I think is actually more competitive than the SEC, even though the SEC is so deep. Auburn, I think Auburn could beat Mississippi State by 40 or something like that. You're not going to see that in the Big Ten. It's anyone's conference.
I think the perfect Minnesota was 0-6 in Big Ten play. Their last 3 games, they have beat Michigan, they have beat Iowa on the road, and they've beat Oregon. That's Minnesota's last 3 games. How did that fucking happen?
Yeah, they were supposed to be like the bottom barrel, and Michigan was 6-0 at the time. So it was 6-0 Michigan versus 0-6 Minnesota. And Minnesota won. It was a close game. And I'm not saying this is the most beautiful basketball you've ever watched. The SEC is definitely the premier conference. But as far as just like the entertainment value of what you're going to get if you turn on a Big Ten game, it's crazy. USC is 4-4 in conference, and they looked like they were dead to rights going into conference play. You know, I think they put up like 34 points against someone in the non-con, like that wasn't even that good. And they're right in the middle of it. So I don't know who's going to win. I really don't. But it's incredibly entertaining. Incredibly.
Yeah. I don't know. Something like it's Purdue and Tom Izzo, and like I want to put my chips in with who I know. Like I trust Matt Painter and I trust Tom Izzo. But goddamn it, Dusty May and that Michigan team is super, super interesting. They have the Twin Towers over there. Like
Illinois could do it for sure.
Illinois could do it with an entire team made up of people whose names I cannot pronounce, which is a feat in and of itself. There's a lot of fun basketball. Now, I don't know if the Big Ten has a team that I think like they don't have a confetti team. Like I don't think there's a team I could see cutting down the nets at the end of March.
It's hard to imagine, yeah. It's harder. I mean, Michigan State's playing so well right now, and Purdue has obviously kind of been there. That would be the argument, I think. But I agree, and it doesn't always kind of feel like the Big Ten is just like that. Like,
yeah,
they have the most teams in, and then they have no teams in the Sweet 16 because, like, I don't really get how it works, and this year is probably going to be the same thing. But it's awesome right now. Any Big Ten game that's nationally televised, I do highly recommend watching. And how many teams right now do you think are still alive for March Madness?
For like in the Big Ten?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going
to count.
I'm going to say 11.
I have 15.
Holy shit.
Yeah, well,
that's crazy.
So Michigan State, Purdue, Michigan, Wisconsin, Maryland, Illinois, Oregon, UCLA are all in the field right now.
Yes.
Right? Indiana is certainly alive.
I've watched enough Mike Woodson. He's dead to me.
Well, yeah, I watched the game. I texted Ryan Hammer. I was watching Indiana, Maryland, and Mike Woodson had the most egregious attempt at coaching at the end of the game. It was insane. But they are absolutely like they're not like so far away from.
Yeah.
Like I would put them in the bubble. They're not in right now, that's for sure. Iowa is on the bubble. If we're being technical, they definitely are. Ohio State, I have in my bracketology, even though they're 3-5 in conference and 11-8 overall. They beat Kentucky by 25 points. They beat Purdue. They are good, but they're 3-5 in conference. Penn State, I think, is on the bubble. I think that Penn State absolutely is. They also beat Purdue. Purdue's 2 losses are to Ohio State and Penn State. Northwestern, I think, is alive. Minnesota is not, in my opinion. Rutgers is not. Washington's not. But Nebraska is. Nebraska was in almost everyone's field like 10 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that. They're 2-7 in conference, 12-8 overall. That's bad, but they are alive.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. The Big Ten's weird. The Big Ten is weird.
Yeah, it is.
Let's get into the ACC. Nick, I kept track because I was curious as to how our conversations would go up to this point in the podcast. We are 26 minutes into this bitch. How many ACC teams have been mentioned between the two of us? I went by their names said out loud. It is 2.
Yeah.
It was Duke and Louisville.
Yeah,
the only
Duke
2 teams in the ACC mentioned. There's not been a single other team in the Atlantic Coast Conference that has been mentioned on this podcast. We are 26 minutes in. That tells you everything you need to know about the ACC this year.
Yeah, well, Duke and Louisville are good. Duke 1 seed, Louisville probably a 5 right now.
Clemson, good.
And that's the thing. Clemson's right there. They're 9-1 in conference, 17-4 overall. AP poll came out today. Clemson not ranked, which Imagine saying this ACC team is 9-1 in conference and 17-4, and they're not ranked. Imagine saying that. And they're out of conference. Wasn't bad. They beat Kentucky. They have the Penn State win. They beat San Francisco. Like, I mean, these aren't like, it's not the flashiest out of conference, but you look at some of these SEC teams, it's no different. And they're 9-1 in conference. But no, the naked eye, nothing in the ACC is really impressive enough. And I don't disagree with it. Like, at this point, I think Clemson need to like win 3 or 4 more games and they're in. Like, they are a 6 seed in my world. And it's really those 3 teams, Duke, Clemson, and Louisville, that I feel really, really confident that they're going to represent the ACC. But then, Cody, who the hell else is going to make it?
Brother, I have no idea. Like here's the thing. I was hopeful. Obviously, I'm an incredibly biased Notre Dame fan, and I was hopeful for Notre Dame for a little bit. Like Marcus Burton got hurt, so it is what it is. But there isn't a team on here that I legitimately think could make like noise in the tournament. So there are some, like Louisville and Wake Forest have the same record.
Are you talking you're out like in the bubble teams?
Yeah. Like, so Louisville and Wake Forest have the same record. Wake Forest is 71st in the net, while Louisville is what, 5th? Yeah, 25th. They are 50 spots apart in the net and have the same record in the ACC. So like I could sit here and be like, well, yeah, like Wake Forest has, like, I think they will get 5 to 6 teams in. But right now, North Carolina is 6-3 in the ACC. I don't think North Carolina is getting into the tournament right now, which means 6 teams get in.
Well, who else? Because if
maybe
you Clemson, Louisville, SMU. I can't imagine SMU being in. Maybe,
but like
maybe
they're going to put a handful in. Like there's going to be 5 teams at a minimum. It's like because it is the ACC.
It's really tough. So Wake is a true bubble team, in my opinion, right now. They have a Michigan win in the non-con. They just beat UNC. They kept it close with Duke. They're a pretty good team, but they don't have like juice outside of what I just said.
Yep.
SMU, I think I watched them play both Louisville and Duke. Like they're 2 chances to go get yourself like a quad 1 win at home. And they lost both by like a egregious margin. So they're not built for it.
Stanford, God, looking at their record or like their schedule is bad. Their schedule's bad.
SMU is not, I wouldn't even call them bubble. They're like,
is SMU just regular season merchants?
They're grasping for the bubble ladder right now. Like they're not out. Stanford maybe the same. UNC I would put in my last 4 in right now, and then Pittsburgh I think I'd also put in my last 4 in. And Wake Forest I'd have out. So right now, yeah, I have 5 in, but Pittsburgh and UNC lose like their next game, and I would probably only have 3 in right now. Yeah. Like, so it's just crazy. It's crazy. And but speaking of, if we get to the Big East, it's not really that different. They have a lot less teams, but I don't think they're going to get that many of them in.
Okay, let's talk Big East, because this is I think Big East. So obviously UConn not playing as well as they have the last 2 years, but that's not it's hard to play at a national title level multiple years in a row. That being said, Marquette and St. John's, nobody's talking about St. John's. Why is St. John's not? Because I still don't think they're in the top 25. They're 17-3. Okay, they are in the top 25.
15. I think they're pretty high.
Yep, you're right. They're 15. That's my bad. But like St. John, I feel like nobody's talking about St. John's. Rick Pitino is such a good fucking coach. Such a good coach. Every game of St. John's I've watched all year has been Rick Pitino just knowing basketball so well. Because this St. John's team, they've got some talent. And I don't want to act like they don't, but they don't have talent in the way that UConn has talent or the way that Creighton has talent. They don't have some of those absolute studs. Like they have Kadari Richmond, who's been great for them, but I don't think that they have like NBA guys on that roster the way that some of these other Big East teams have. And they're so fucking good. But yeah, this conference
Lewis is really good. I mean, yeah, they have like some bucket getters. It's also fascinating because you look at their Big East schedule, they're 9-1 in the Big East. One loss is against Creighton in Omaha, like it by 1 point. So a 1 point loss to a tournament level team on the road in conference play, and they're 9-1. So yeah, it's kind of like Clemson in that sense, where it's like, I think St. John's is probably a 5 or 6 right now. They're not like, but they're 9-1 in the Big East. So you would assume that they're 17-3, 9-1 in the Big East. You would assume that leads them to like they're a freaking 2 seed. But it's just the Big East isn't as like Providence is down, Seton Hall's god awful, Butler isn't really worth a damn. Georgetown.
But Butler lost like 9 straight. They were bad.
Butler's no good. Georgetown, for as much as it's like cool that they're not awful, they're certainly not a tournament team. Villanova's not a tournament team. Xavier is the only team outside of the top 4 that's like not eliminated. They're a bubble team. But it's really like, unless you're playing against, like if you're St. John's, if you're playing Marquette, Creighton, or UConn, you're like, yay, this is a chance to boost your resume. Everything else is just like, you better win, And it's kind of a similar thing in the ACC where it's like, Clemson, if they're playing Louisville, Duke, Wake, UNC, Pitt, like, ooh, yay. But if you're playing Miami, Boston College, Virginia, NC State, VT, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, Notre Dame, Cal, like, you just better not lose. That's too many teams that you kind of have to like, you can't fall asleep. And it's tough.
Yeah, especially like in college hoops. So it's a lot of ups and downs. St. John's, their 3 losses are by a combined total of 5 points to Creighton on the road, Georgia, and Baylor.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Wait, so, wow. Oh, yeah, they got beat by a buzzer beater. They lost to Baylor on a buzzer beater.
Yep.
And Georgia by 3. They have a New Mexico win. Out of conference schedule, I mean, their resume is not freaking that good at all, really, if I'm being honest. But that's the reason that they're like a 6 right now. But yeah, so the Big East, I wouldn't say, I think I have written down like the ACC is dead, the Big East is dying. The Big East isn't dying, but it is like last year, they didn't get that many teams in. This year, it's kind of the same thing. I think NIL's hurting teams like Providence that just aren't funded well enough, like these schools, like it's a little bleak. The outlook is a little bleak for the Big East.
That's fair. All right, let's get into picks and previews. Before we do, if you are going to any college hoops games, I'm going to a college hoops game on Wednesday. Ooh. Shout out Grace College, NAIA. Go to SeatGeek, use promo code SmashHitsSports, get $20 off your first ticket purchase. Lord knows they took a ton of my money when I went to the national championship game. But picks and previews. Nick, there's 16 games on here.
Yes, sir.
They're all incredible. Some of them less incredible than others, but we have to talk about them. I'm excited for this slate, though, this weekend, some incredible games. By the time you guys are listening to this game is likely over, but we're going to start. We have to talk about it. Kentucky at Tennessee. This is going to be an incredible, incredible matchup. I'm excited to see. These are 2 polar opposites. You have Kentucky's playing with pace, and you have Tennessee who wants to slow it down and grind you down with defense. Nick, talk to me.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of the times in college hoops, I do like to rationalize things as like, okay, home team in a big game coming off a loss, like that feels like a game that you're just going to win. But the SEC, like we said, is a different beast. And this home team in a big game is Kentucky, who's coming off a loss against a very good Vanderbilt team that's definitely in the field as well. And Kentucky is going to be just as desperate. They're absolutely capable of winning this game on the road. It's just like, it's trickier. I have to kind of throw aside some of my old picking strategies, or maybe I shouldn't. And maybe this is why you're going to beat me. But I'm going to go Kentucky here just because it feels like the Mark Pope NBA level offense, the chucking a lot of threes. If they can hit them, then Tennessee's defense isn't going to be as threatening. Because Kentucky, they're going to be able to create open shots. They're going to be able to make them. And it just is a matter of, can they defend Chaz Lanier, who he's like a player of the year type guy. I don't know how Tennessee keeps getting him, but.
Yeah. It's they've done good work in the portal. I'm going to take Tennessee here. When you hold Kentucky under 70 points, they lose. Vanderbilt did it. Ohio State did it. Georgia did it. That seems to be the key. And if I trust a defense to do it, it is Tennessee's. So I'm taking Tennessee in this one.
Who else did? I feel like there's another team that did it, that held them to under 16
Let me scroll back. It was Ohio State. It was Georgia. It was
like early December. I don't remember, though.
Duke did not do it. It is the Clemson Tigers.
Yes, there it is. There it is. Oh, you can write your own. Go for it, my boy. Okay, yeah, next game is Wednesday. So we only have one Tuesday game. And the reason behind that is that, we're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 16 games. Obviously, Saturday, there's going to be we got to be best.
You got to pick your spots.
You want to get the very best. So there are a lot of games that you might be like, well, you're not talking about Baylor, BYU. It's like, well, no, we're not. Because we want to talk about Wisconsin at Maryland. Maryland almost in the top 25. I think they're ranked like 27th if it was a top 30. And Wisconsin, who is balling out, they have absolutely spread their offense out. Like Greg Gard is just like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just become this offensive-minded team and free-flowing, a lot of movement, Warriors 2016 level team where it's like, whoa, that's not used to seeing that with Wisconsin, but it is what they are now. At Maryland just won 2 straight road games. They're notorious for being far better at home than they are on the road. That's just the Maryland way. Now they get to play at home. But do you think they've sold their soul for those 2 road games and they'll lose this one? Maybe. What's your thought?
See, my thought is it's not the 2 road games, but the way that they beat Indiana. Just on an absolute, incredible finish to that game. Indiana could have closed it out, and they didn't, which, I think coming off of that emotion, coming off of that energy, you're going to have to come in and then keep up with a Wisconsin team that now plays with pace and they can score. I think it's going to be tough for Maryland to rattle off 3 in a row. So I'm going to take Wisconsin here.
Okay, yeah. And I'll stick with my guns in this sense just because I do know how good Maryland is at home. Like, it is like a very wild thing if you really look into it, how they play at home versus on the road. So this is a home game. It's a big spot. Maybe that Indiana game being close is kind of like, we got lucky there. Let's freaking dial it in. We're at home now. And then they win by 15. I don't know. I'm going to go with Maryland. They're also very talented. Maybe Kevin Willard's figured it out. Next game is Houston at West Virginia. That's Wednesday. I think it's also at 7. West Virginia was firing on all cylinders. They might have been ranked this past week. I would have had them ranked. Definitely aren't ranked anymore, though. They had a blunder class of a week. But now they get to host Houston. They hosted Kansas. They won. Who's to say they can't beat Houston?
Yeah, this is such a weird, they lost to Houston earlier, and now, you beat Kansas, you beat Iowa State, but then you lost to Arizona State, who's awful, and you lost to Kansas State, who
Arizona State's not that bad. I'll tell you that, but
I don't know. I think but Kansas State, Coleman Hawkins, you lost by 13 to Kansas State. I don't trust West Virginia anymore. And if there is a team that is going to go on the road and just know that they're going to stick to their brand of basketball, it's going to be Houston. It's going to be Houston. So give me Houston. Yeah,
I mean, they did just prove that. And my thing is that Houston's defense is just, it's so awesome.
It's so awesome.
Blitz the ball screen, just force teams to chuck and chuck and chuck. And West Virginia is just that's not their game. They're going to get forced into it. I think the energy is going to be crazy. I can see this being 61-59. West Virginia's down with a minute left, where it's whoa. But if I'm going to pick a big upset like this against a really good Houston team that needs squad 1 wins, I kind of have to feel confident that it'll be West Virginia up 2 at the end or up 4 at the end. And I definitely don't feel confident in that. So I have to go with Houston. But that is not me saying, go pick Houston, right? I think this is absolutely a spot where West Virginia could win.
Yeah. I mean, there's no absolutes in this sport like there is in college football. There's some no-brainers in college football that we have to pick, but this one, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, Mississippi State might have 200 points scored in that game.
I mean, that's any Alabama game, right? If Mississippi State's going to win, there won't be. Let's just say that. If Mississippi State wins, like the under is going to have to hit, in my opinion, just because I just don't think if you let Alabama go, they're going to secretariat you, and they're going to just keep extending.
I like that phrase. Did you come up with that?
But secretariat you? Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was just spur of the moment.
I love that.
Yeah.
Put that on a shirt, man.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Okay. Pat on back, little goosebumps for the audience there. Verbal goosebumps. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can go Mississippi State here. I like Alabama too much, so I'm going Alabama. Road win.
Yeah, and the SEC, like there's been some big road wins this year. Like Missouri's gone into Florida and won. Like there have been quite a few that happened. This wouldn't be one that would absolutely shock me. I'm also riding Alabama here.
2. Yeah, Mississippi State's a really weird team. Like they are on the fade list because they can destroy the living daylights out of a team, or they can look horrible, or it's super close. You literally don't know what to expect. So, all right, on to Thursday. 2 games Thursday, both Big Ten. Illinois at Nebraska. This is not the worst game we have on here, but it's certainly, we'll have to see. We'll have to see, because Nebraska is capable of beating anyone in the Big Ten. Like we just said, the Big Ten's weird. But the excitement level isn't going to be, there's not palpable buzz, if you know what I mean, with this game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. The thing about Illinois is they've been like good and great at times, but they've also been bad at times. That 21-point loss to Maryland at home, like that's such a bad loss. The way that you lost to USC at home. They're a weird team. I don't know how I feel about them. I'm just going to stick with Illinois because I think they have a more talented roster.
Yeah. All right. My rationale will be Nebraska. I was going to just wait and pick the opposite because I could really rationalize either. But Nebraska, if we're talking about Big Ten standings and you're talking about desperation, right? They were in the field. Some people had them as a 9-10 seed for a little bit there. Now they're 2-7 in Big Ten play and definitely out of the tournament. They're coming off a 20-point loss to Wisconsin. They lost to USC at home. They lost to Maryland. They lost to Rutgers at home. They got crushed by Purdue. They lost to Iowa. It's just been bad for them. And now you get a decent-sized break and you get to host an Illinois team that isn't as desperate. So it feels like a must-have game in January for Nebraska. So I'll ride with them.
Love it. Love it. Let's pick it up here, Skosh, Nick, because I do have a hard out here in a couple minutes.
That's true.
Oregon, UCLA. I'm going to be honest. I think UCLA is kind of getting hot a little bit. They've won a handful after going on a 4-game skid, and Mick Cronin lost his mind. I like where UCLA has rebounded from that. I'm going to take UCLA at home against Oregon.
So am I. Coaches losing their mind tends to work. Let's just, we need to stop judging coaches for saying asinine shit because they're doing it for a reason. Friday is Indiana at Purdue. This is the worst game that we have on here, but yes. I get why we have it.
Yeah.
Because the Indiana man made the list.
Yes, it's a rivalry game. You got to talk about it. Also, I just wanted to pick a game for Friday. Like if you wanted to watch college hoops, this is a game to watch. That being said, Purdue.
Yeah, I'm going Purdue. If it was at Indiana, anything could happen, right? Obviously, but this is Mike Woodson going into Purdue. Purdue's playing really good basketball. It's got to be Purdue here. Just has to be. But it is a rivalry, and it's the Big Ten, so, I don't want to be too confident. A Saturday crazy slate.
This is sexual. This slate's incredible.
We have 8 games that we're just going to, I mean, I know you have a hard out, so should we just kind of rapid fire them?
Yeah. Yep. Let's rapid fire. Who you got first game?
So I'm going to go with Tennessee. This is part of the reason that I picked Kentucky in the first one, because I think Tennessee beats Florida there.
Yeah, I'm going with Florida. So I have the opposite logic. I think Tennessee splits. So I'm going Florida in this matchup.
Florida's awesome, but Tennessee would be desperate in my scenario. Not desperate, but they would want to get back in the win column. I'm going Mississippi State at home against Missouri. Mississippi State, obviously, they have the home game against Alabama. If they lose that, then, yeah, you better fucking beat Missouri.
Yep, I'm going Mississippi State as well. I just like there used to be like a bog it down defensive team, and I like how their offense has looked this year. It's been a little bit quicker, a little bit more juice.
It can be. It's strange, that team. Auburn at Ole Miss. Is this a spot where Auburn can lose? I think it is a spot that Auburn can lose. Don't know if I'm willing to pick it, but Auburn's not going to go undefeated in the SEC. So I think I'll probably just go with Ole Miss because YOLO. Auburn's SEC is too good for Auburn to run the table. No way.
I agree that SEC is too good for Auburn to run the table. However, I'm not picking against Janai Broom and Bruce Pearl. So I'm going to take Auburn, and I'll be wrong one of these times. It ain't going to be today. Give me Auburn.
Yeah. Kansas at Baylor. Baylor's not as good. Kansas not as good. This used to be like 2 versus 4,
Yeah.
But it's a little less exciting, but it's at Baylor. Baylor could really use this win. Kansas, coming off a loss to Houston, could really use this win. Really tough one in my end. Who do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to take Baylor in this one. I just think that the Big 12 it's tighter than people think. Like, obviously, Houston and Iowa State are at the top of the AP poll, but I think the top 5 teams in this conference are really damn good. Baylor is in that group. I'm going to go with Baylor at home.
Okay, I'll go Kansas. I definitely think Kansas is better, but it's the home court advantage issue that is like, I don't know. Texas Tech at Houston. Texas Tech, sneaky. Nobody knows about them, but they're, I think, 10 or 11 in the net. They're 10 or 11 in KenPom. So from a resume standpoint and an efficiency standpoint, they're super valid. Like, up there with the best teams in the country. They just don't have a high enough strength of schedule for the bracketologists to respect them. And I think people might figure out Texas Tech in this game, but I don't know, man. Can I pick against Houston at home? I'll do it. Texas Tech.
I'm kind of upset that you picked that because this was going to be my fuck it, we ball. Like,
that's hilarious.
There's never a weekend in college basketball that doesn't have some sort of crazy upset. I mean, we saw an AP poll where a ton of the teams lost in the top 25. I'm also taking Texas.
Yeah, this feels
crazy
like a
spot.
Fuck it, we ball spot right here, and it has the energy of that. It has the, you know what, YOLO. Houston can lose one.
Love it.
UNC at Duke. Definitely, I would say a better game than Indiana Purdue, in my opinion, because it does matter more, and I think UNC is better than Indiana for sure. But UNC is reeling, and Duke is that good. Like, that's a team that could go undefeated in their conference. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Duke 100% could. And they are going to have to play at North Carolina. Are they going to lose hosting North Carolina? Highly doubt it. So I'm going Duke in that spot.
Yeah, we're picking this game because it's a rivalry, not because it's going to be a close game. I think Duke blows the doors off of them.
Yeah, probably. But again, you never know. UConn at Marquette, similar to Kansas Baylor, where it's like, this would be awesome if this was like 3 versus 1 right now. But UConn kind of stinks ass, and Marquette is a little less exciting without Kolek and whatnot. But at home, Marquette, Cam Jones, I'm going to go with Marquette. UConn is going to continue to tumble.
Yeah, UConn, their last 3 games, lost to Creighton, 2-point win against Butler at home.
In overtime.
And then a loss against Xavier. They play DePaul on Wednesday. They're going to beat them by like 30, and people are going to be like, oh, fuck, UConn's back. Not so fast. So I'm also taking
Or they're going to beat DePaul by 3 because UConn's incapable of beating a team. Every UConn game has been so close and so exciting. Like, they are maybe the most exciting team to watch in college basketball right now, because they just can't fucking defend.
Yep.
But I wouldn't be shocked if that DePaul game is close. Arkansas at Kentucky. This is important because this is John Calipari's first time back in Rupp Arena. Now, Arkansas is sliding.
Yeah.
But man, this is another fuck it, we ball spot if you wanted to take it. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I'll let you pick first, though.
I can't do it. I just can't do it. Mark Pope has these boys rolling. This will be the loud. If you had a decibel meter, this will be the loudest game in college basketball all season.
Oh yeah,
I'll stand by that.
Like, this game is up there as like must watch as the Alabama or Auburn Tennessee game, and it's Kentucky hosting an unranked team that isn't that good, but it's like, this is must watch. I am so tempted to take Arkansas. I can absolutely see it happening.
It'd be funny.
I know, but just to be safe, I'll take Kentucky. No, we have 3 in a row that we just went the same with.
Yeah, but we're differing on a lot of these.
We are differing on a lot. Okay, I'll take Kentucky.
Love it.
But just remember that I wanted to take Arkansas. Yep. Just remember that.
Gonzaga St. Mary's, The Gonzaga, I think, are they done as a power in college, like as one of the elite teams? Because I don't know if they are this year. I'm going to be real honest.
They're not like, from a resume standpoint, and it was a similar problem last year. They're certainly not worthy of like a high seed. If that's they are like they were overseeded last year, in my opinion. This year, they're probably deserving of like an 8 right now, with an easy schedule ahead of them. But if you go to the net and you look at some of their, like, how talented and good is this team? How well are they playing? Gonzaga's 16th in the net. They're ahead of Michigan State. Like, they're talented as hell. They are very capable of beating anyone. They just didn't. And now they're stuck in the WCC, which is why they got to get the hell out of there, which they are. At St. Mary's, this is St. Mary's first Quad 1 game of the year, I believe, unless they play one during the week. So it is very necessary that they win, but it's also very necessary that Gonzaga wins, because they're not feeling very safe right now, I'm sure. What are you doing? I don't freaking know.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Like, St. Mary's hasn't lost a game since Christmas. Gonzaga, after losing to Oregon, they haven't. And Gonzaga, after losing to Oregon State, like, they need this. And Mark Few, in a game that he absolutely needs to get it, I'm going to take Gonzaga. I don't love it, but like, if you're going to trust Mark Few, I think this is the game to do it. So I'm taking Gonzaga. Yeah,
I feel like that's right. I feel like that's the right thing to do, because they're better.
Yeah, right?
I mean, this is such a big rivalry, and St. Mary's is going to be fucking going crazy. So I'll go St. Mary's. I think Gonzaga will get them when they're at home. So I'll take St. Mary's here. So we end on something different. That spread's going to be really close. So you could go either way there for sure. But that wraps
it up. Love it. Looking forward to it. A hell of a weekend of college hoops. Nick, it feels good to be back. We're still right in the swing of things, man. It feels good.
Hell yeah.
It's college hoops, baby. I love it. Play the
flow state there.
The song. Awesome. Play it. Yeah. Play the damn song. Incredible. Love it. All right. Like, subscribe, do all those things. Help us out. We will see you in the next one.
Adios. Peace out.